Hi everyone, I'm Zan, your astrologer, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of April the 5th, 2021. We have a really powerful, very dynamic and active sky playing out all throughout the week, and it is exactly this dynamism, this action-oriented sky, which is going to persist all throughout April. Perhaps there are going to be moments when it will play out in a different manner, in a different nuance, but regardless, the intensity and the power is definitely going to be there all throughout the month of April. And before I actually get into the horoscope, I would just like to mention one very important thing. This week, as in next week, the most predominant celestial conversations that are going to be filling the sky are sextiles, which are harmonious celestial dances, but they do require action from our behalf. May that be a physical action, a choice, a decision, simply focusing on what we desire inside of us, inner truth, inner work. It can be absolutely anything as long as we invest some kind of energy or focus onto those things that we want to work with. And even though usually this is very harmonious because it is full of inspiration, it is also full of this instinctual impulse to just do, to create, to live, to experience, to embody basically everything that we desire, that we need to be experiencing right now, which is absolutely fine. It is a celestial motivation after all, as above, so below, and the sky is like a blueprint, like an ethereal energy. When the sky is full of initiative, well, that means that our instincts, that our inner world is also mirroring that. So of course we are motivated, of course we feel this very strongly, but we must never forget, even for a second, that all of this action-oriented energy, even if it's for our greatest good, even if this is where the spotlight, the celestial spotlight, is actually on the individual. So we basically need to take action, we need to work, or for some people be patient. But being patient is a karmic work, a karmic effort. It doesn't come easily. So in any case, it still takes place under the Saturn and Uranus square, which I spoke about in all of my videos. This is the predominant energy of 2021, and the big picture is out with the old structures, old normality, old way of doing things, old social security, old everything that has to do with basically humanity's future, the sign of Aquarius, and in with the new, in with the future, in with new technologies, in with new information, scientific discoveries, and basically new way of doing things. And before this turns into like a very earthly, a very physical, well-determined, down-to-earth action, well, first of all, this is going to be an idea, a principle, maybe a legislative or legal initiation, and it will definitely battle one another. The new will battle the old and traditional. Now, of course, the old doesn't need to be deconstructed absolutely to the ground, because certain parts of the old are still viable, and chances are that they are always going to be viable until humankind as a species is around. And those structures which are basically immortal are based on our identity as a species, our compassion, our humanitarianism, morality, justice, fairness, equality, non-discrimination, all of our human values. So that will definitely be staying. That part of Saturn in Aquarius is not going anywhere, and regardless of how tempting certain innovative ideas or principles are, if they go against morality, well, they must not have any chance to enter our reality in any way. And this is where the nodes of the moon also serve us, especially the south node in this sense, because we saw all throughout history that there were other Uranian type of figures who wanted to innovate so very much that they went against basic human values. For example, the Nazis. They basically wanted to upgrade humanity. They wanted to forcefully obtain a quantum leap, but because they went against our core principles as a species, of course they failed. So we already know that that is not the right path. That is not the right way. Everything needs to happen in its own time and its own pace. So that's why this out with the old and in with the new needs to be somewhat balanced. So this is exactly the reason why it's taking such a long time. So this kind of invites us to be patient and also knowledgeable that yes, we do embody our inner truth. We know what we want. We are ready to start a new life. We are ready to start our new projects. We're ready to invest everything that we have into our hopes and dreams, which are also, for most of us, I do believe for 90% of us, our own unique ways, in tune with the greater good. Because what we want, what we desire for ourselves, is ultimately also very beneficial for the collective as well. So there's no problem with our desires, but the way to achieve them, the way to accomplish them, it might change from one minute to the other because of this very powerful Uranus and Saturn square. This is chaos, this is unpredictable, this is where, yes, we can base ourselves on logic and rationality, or on the other hand, on faith and what we believe, but this must not be rigid. We may have the truth, we may hold the solution today, and things might shift very, very quickly, overnight even. So that means that the base, the core, the very essence of our desires might not change at all, but the way to execute it, well, we might have to adapt ourselves on so very many occasions. Maybe each and every day we need to basically embody this process of readaptation, because this is what the big energy is doing and we have to follow it. And the reason why I'm telling you this, well, there can be so very many occasions when our big goals and what we are truly passionate about, what we are fighting for, may suffer certain chaotic moments, setbacks, obstacles, unexpected twists and turns of events which may delay us. But this is part of the picture. Just because these unexpected events, may they be small or big, just enter our lives without any invitation, that is Uranus. And this doesn't mean that we're on the wrong path. This doesn't mean that we are not right about what we feel. It doesn't mean that fate is against us or we have bad karma in our lives. It just means that the big picture, the most predominant energy in the sky, which basically is shaping our reality as we speak, and this is an ongoing process all throughout the year. This energy is of this very unstable nature, so everything will mirror it. So these minor setbacks, minor moments of confusion, having to rearrange, readapt our plans, sometimes having to reinvent ourselves once again, or having to be patient and wait and contain our enthusiasm, contain our readiness to begin anew. Sometimes all of these things are required, and of course they will lead to frustration. Of course, our souls and the inner child, our creative energy, is going to be extremely impatient and dissatisfied, and this might send us into a not so favorable vibration and frequency, where we might get a little bit depressed, a little bit lonely, a little bit faithless. There might be moments when we fall, when we feel that we're sinking, when nothing adds up anymore. but this is all part of how this energy should manifest. So do not feel discouraged and don't give up on your dreams, don't give up on your hope, don't give up working for what you want to create for yourself, because this is just how a quantum entangled reality is being born. It is not linear, it is not, sometimes it doesn't follow logic. So even if we have a lot of setbacks in our lives, we need to focus on all those things that are working, because this Uranus also gives us a lot of energy, a lot of good ideas, plans, motivation, and of course opportunities as well, especially through the communication of other people and what other people reflect back at us regarding our self-worth, how valuable, how a positive influence we are to them in their lives. And that is basically also part of the truth. So let's not just focus only on the setbacks, even though we do have the tendency to do that right now. And the irony is not because we are pessimistic in any way, but quite the contrary. We're so very focused and aligned to begin anew, to finally accomplish, to achieve some kind of breakthrough, that we simply cannot take a no for an answer right now, because we are so very empowered. And this is how I begin actually my horoscope, because the sign of Aries is going to be packed with planets. Now we have Venus, the Sun, now Mercury, Ceres, Chiron, and ultimately the permanent guest Aries in this part of the sky. So remember back in January, February, when it was the sign of Aquarius, which was packed with so many planets, and how radically that changed our lives, our perspectives, our life philosophies, our worldviews. Right now, who it is that we are, even if our, let's say, evolution and rebirth is not complete, we're still so very different people to who we were back in January, February. And now it is the Aries part of the sky, the self, the instinct, the identity, even the ego, but not in a negative way, but basically the ego, the gravity of our beings, the inner sun, is being heavily focused and emphasized on. So you can imagine that that is a crazy amount of power in that area of the sky. And regardless of where the sign of Aries falls in our personal charts, well, it is still a fiery energy, it is still the warrior spirit, it is still self, it is still everything that is important for our beings, earthly being, our spirit, our soul, our higher self, our shadow, everything, so the wholeness of who we are. Venus in this part of the sky also makes our passions, dreams and goals that much more important for us, and important in a very down-to-earth way, in a very primordial way. This is because Venus is debilitated in the sign of Aries. She cannot bring forward her very idealistic, her philosophical qualities. When she's in Libra, for example, or Pisces, she's very, very rudimentary, as in, this is what I desire, this is how it has to look like here down on earth, and this is what I'm aiming for, basically. So this is also very strong, passionate energy, which we might not be able to control right now. We also have the Sun exalted in the sign of Aries. So basically, that means that right now, like it or not, comfortable or not, it is us, the self, who is the center of everything. And we have to surrender to this energy. Not in the sense that it has to be egoistic, narcissistic, self-centered in a big way. But we have to acknowledge that right now, it is our biggest duty to serve the self, to create the kind of life for ourselves, an existence, way of life that we are comfortable with, that serves our passion. And this is the time for it. We have no choice but to give into these desires and accomplish what we can. Mercury also freshly entered into the sign of Aries. This is where our focus, our mental energy, our plans, our perceptions, our communications are as well. And the Sun and Venus in this part of the sky are holding sextiles with Mars and Jupiter, and that is a really strong motivational energy, exactly what I said. For some people, this comes through as very strong creative impulse, self-expression, to invest in their lives, in their selves, in their earthly beings. For example, if you are working on something and you might need upgraded tools, then you feel at this time that you truly need it and deserve it, and that is where your energy goes on its own. For others, they might need, I'm not even sure, Jupiter in Aquarius, a mentor, new studies, an upgraded knowledge, an upgraded mastery. So they might be looking for information, inspiration, knowledge, database, a teacher. Others might need like recognition, to be in the public eye, in the spotlight, because they have so much to give, of course. So each person, what they actually need to accomplish this breakthrough, this advancement, and ultimately the rebirth. And I'll get to that at the very end of this horoscope, because we have a very important celestial conversation in this sense happening on Sunday in some parts of the world and Monday on the other parts of the world. So the 11th and 12th of April, where we have this very powerful, very intense, and ultimately very, very symbolic new moon in the sign of Aries. But before we get to that new moon, we're going to feel like a crescendo of energies. We're going to feel this intensity to create, to express ourselves, to love ourselves, to heal ourselves, to nurture our beings, to give the Caesar what actually belongs to the Caesar. And even though the overall feeling of this energy is very empowering, very positive, very action-oriented, I'm not doubting that a lot of people are going to be making very important steps. But the overall picture of this Saturn and Uranus square might represent also certain blockages and setbacks, inconveniences, challenges, etc. But if this is the case, please don't be discouraged. Look at the positive side, because right now that is truly what counts, and that is truly where the power is. And regardless of how, let's say, titanic the setbacks and the inconveniences may look when they enter your life, don't give up hope. This energy is still extremely empowering. So even if you are defeated by the odds, even if you think that you have no chance for that breakthrough that you've been waiting for, dreaming for, working for, don't be discouraged. This is the type of energy where a very inspired action, a moment of courage, a moment of bravery and a leap of faith can truly take you extremely far. Because yes, that Uranus is chaos, but once you truly desire something and are willing to risk for it, that energy also kind of encourages you, and it is basically the beginner's luck. Uranus can also be very, very lucky, very differently than Jupiter, of course, but ultimately, when you're truly motivated to do something, Uranus, as much as it can create setbacks, it can also create momentum, and basically it can show you the creative nature of chaos. Also, communication, connecting to other people, sharing whatever it is that you can share, information-wise, of course. Speaking about your plans, your desires, expressing the feeling in your heart. Now, all of these are blessed and empowered, because Mars, from the sign of Gemini, the communicator, the mental energy, is speaking in a sextile with the Sun in Aries, then Venus in Aries. And this is a very persuasive energy. This is a big blessing for public speakers, for those who communicate for a living, for those whose projects and work, even hobbies are based on communication, sharing, the internet, getting in touch with people, mediation. This is even extremely ideal for artistic energy, where it's poetry or creative writing, anything which has to do with communication. And the more passionate that you are with what you communicate or how you get in touch with people, chances are that your passion, your love, your creativity, your desire are gonna be truly felt, either empathically or in any other way by other people. So this energy is truly persuasive and it gets you very, very far. Especially if we add another supremely harmonious celestial conversation in this picture, where Mars starts holding a trine with Jupiter. This trine is not going to be perfect this week. It will only perfect itself later on, towards the middle of April. But still, Jupiter is the planet of expansion and blessing. Mars is the activator, energizer, planet of action. So when these two speak in harmony, well, as soon as they start conversing with each other in harmony, well, still, that is inspired action, that is blessed action, blessed words, blessed communication, blessed connection. Mars is ultimately your passion, your desire, what you want to accomplish. Jupiter can also be seen as faith, as your inner truth, your own principles, your life views, your philosophies, your perfected knowledge, as in that knowledge, information that you kind of mastered, especially if you are a highly talented, skilled professional or are very talented, gifted with anything. It doesn't really matter what domain or what talent that is, artistic or not. Any kind of know-how and mastery, if you're good at something, well, you have to show it. You have to work with it. You have to share it with the world, with the internet, because this is where the good luck is at the moment. If that Jupiter truly expands Mars and blesses action, blesses whatever we share, whatever we project on the world, that can get us a very, very long way. And this trine between Mars and Jupiter is going to be a rather long-term aspect. Long-term in the sense that it will last all this week, all next week. So we have plenty of time to work with this supremely harmonious energy. And on the 7th of April, the moon conjuncts Jupiter and they trine Mars together. So that is going to be a moment when we can truly feel this empowerment, this blessing of energy and faith, and just this optimism to follow our dreams, to express ourselves, to work, to sacrifice and not shy, not give up. That is going to be a very important moment which can just fill us, even with a soul level energy, to just pump that faith, that belief, that optimism into our beings and basically feed ourselves, feed our spirits with it. And this is also very important because, as I said, yes, the sky is filled with sextiles and action-oriented energies where we need to know what we want and take action. Yet how we have to do that might require so many readaptations, so many moments when we go back to the drawing board and change minor elements, adapt ourselves to the situation, how it involves the flow, basically, what we have to work with practically in our lives. And readaptation is that much more easier when we truly believe in our purpose. Readaptation doesn't come as hard, doesn't come as a pain, as a moment of anger and frustration, but rather wisdom, rather faith, as in if we believe in ourselves, then just readapting, even if it's the 1,000th times that we do that, it's still something that comes much more easier to us when we stand from a position of faith and belief and alignment with our goals, rather than if we basically perceive it as yet again another necessity, another obstacle, another setback. And of course, speaking about Mars, there is a not so favorable conversation of tension, a square, taking place between Mars and Neptune. Now, each and every time when this kind of conversation activates in the sky, well, Mars ultimately desires to seek the truth. Mars desires, especially in the sign of Gemini right now, and very close to that North Node, to know what he needs to do, to have everything figured out, to have the plan, to know what is right, to know what is wrong, to know what is real, and to know what is illusion, even if we are speaking about very, very personal things and not all of what is going on the world stage, because it's very obvious and clear in that sense where the illusion, the lies, the misconception, manipulation tendencies come from. So that the collective part of this energy needs no further commentary because it's very obvious. But for us personally, how this can play out, well, this Mars is very good intended because in the sign of Gemini, it's dual. It is open to the truth, and it also is willing to analyze the truth both from a very rational and intellectual perspective, but both from an emotional perspective, both from a divine perspective and also from an earthly perspective, because that is the sign of Gemini. Castor and Pollux, one of the twins was an immortal divine being, and the other one was half mortal, so it is a question of perspective, where the big picture we can achieve when we unite both of these points of view and not just focus on one side of the spectrum of the duality, but rather we choose the middle path, what both versions have in common, and that is basically as close as we get to the truth. So basically what this energy is trying to inspire us with personally, well, we have to believe in ourselves, we have to believe in our dreams and our feelings, our intuition, basically everything that the divine whispers into our lives, in our consciousness, through synchronicities or, whatever. But divine information, even if it just sources from our souls, well, it is a Neptunian kind of information. It is a dream. It is almost like a fantasy. It is a question of what we want to believe and not necessarily like concrete data, numbers, facts, information. So whatever the divine inspires, even if it's through our dreams and souls, through the inner God, so to speak, well, we still have to decipher that. We still have to reason, understand, integrate it in a rather rational way into our mental sphere, Mars and the sign of Gemini. And basically this means that, okay, we have our dreams, we have the divine inspiration, we believe in ourselves, but what we believe can come into existence in 10 trillion different ways of manifestation, because that is quantum reality. So basically we must not attach something set in stone to how we want to experience and live and basically manifest our dreams and desires. We must not think that our fantasy is more than a symbol. That symbol may contain the essence, may contain basically the big picture of what we have to experience, but how it can manifest, how external reality can permit that to become real, that doesn't really depend all that much on us. So we have to work with what we have to go with the flow and not take symbols that seriously, as in literally. but neither lose our faith by rationalizing everything. So this conversation invites us to hold a certain balance where we can allow the spirit, our dreams, our intuitive side, our nonlinear information, and our faith and our connection to the divine to be a living part of our lives, and basically to be a valid inspirational force helping us with our decisions and guiding us. But we also need to embody the rational and very down-to-earth and intellectual way of looking at things. Like a concrete example, okay, you know that you are destined to live something specific. It is crystal clear to you because you saw it in so many dreams and readings, perhaps, your star chart, etc. But just because we think that right now is the best moment for us to experience it, well, that doesn't mean that it will take place right now according to our calculations. So rather than to become upset and just abandon our dreams and withdraw our trust from the divine, we can just let it go and accept that it will happen when it has to happen. And until it happens, we have our intellect, we have our brain power, we have our knowledge, life experience to find our own way. So basically with this energy, we're trying to identify our own illusions to separate true faith and divine inspiration from our wishful thinking. But the very nature of Neptune, and from both of these planets, it is obvious that Neptune is the strongest influence. Sometimes in life we actually cannot separate an illusion from whatever we believe, for the simple fact that we may kind of hold the energy of the truth, but because we either never had this kind of life experience or our brains cannot figure it out, they just attribute a form, a symbol to it. Like, let me give you an example. You know that in one moment in your life, you are gonna be very, very happy. Something really good happens to you because it's fated. You don't know what it is, so your mind might try to find the best possible match through which it can translate this information basically to your human being. So it might show you that you're living in prosperity and have that vibes and the feelings. So basically it will show you a depiction of your future, and automatically you might think that, I have to either, I don't know, win a competition, win the lottery, or tap into some kind of big money abundance, etc. And when the time comes for this to manifest, you might actually meet the love of your life. And because to your soul that is the most important thing that could ever happen to you, that is happiness for you personally. And of course you will feel so abundant and that you have everything in your life, even if your material situation doesn't change that much considerably. So how something manifests is not set in stone. What is actually set in stone is the experience. So that is why there are certain times in life when we are not able to discern like proper divine guidance, let's say a prophecy or our dreams, our inner truth from illusions. And it's absolutely fine if we trust and if we are open and not really get attached like almost obsessively to how we think it should play out. But fortunately, another energy, a sextile in the sky, might be a very, very helpful influence exactly in this sense, where Mercury, planet of mind and communication, will sextile Saturn. Now Mercury in the sign of Aries, it is instinct. It is our primordial intelligence basically the intelligence of nature inside of us, which can be a very strong guiding force many times in life, much more powerful, accurate, and trustworthy than, I'm really sorry to say this, but sometimes our instincts and our guts are much more precise than an intuitive, spiritual kind of guidance system. But of course, that also requires our instincts to be extremely active, and that's why this Mercury in Aries is so powerful. Like, let me just give you an example of what this energy means. You know, birds, when they have to travel to other continents, over seas and oceans, well, something is guiding them. They have to know the way somehow. And it's within them. It's within their genes, their instincts. That is nature's intelligence. That is genetic kind of intelligence. And that is Mercury in Aries. We human beings also possess that. And when it sextiles Saturn, well, Saturn is physical reality. Saturn is what is truly possible. It is down to earth, grounded. So basically, this truly helps our instincts and our mind to process what it is that we need to do materially, physically, whose opinion we have to ask, because this is also communication. This is also speech. Perhaps sharing opinions, perhaps consulting someone with much more experience than us. That's Saturn in Aquarius. A friend, a teacher, someone who we know, someone who we can trust, someone who is trustworthy. So this aspect is really, really good for us to know and be able to tell what action we need to do and when to do it. And of course, at the same time, if we are not supposed to do something or not at that time, that's also a conclusion that we can reach with the blessing of this aspect. So either way, it will keep us aligned, with down-to-earth matters. So it will not allow us to, navigate into the clouds, into the world of dreams and fantasies, which is really a blessing right now. And finally, we get to perhaps the most important celestial conversation, which happens at the very, very end of the week on Sunday, either on the 11th or the 12th of April, depending on where you are on the planet. And this is a new moon in Aries. Now, this new moon is extremely potent for a number of different reasons. And of course, I'm going to be speaking in much more detail about this new moon. Later on in the week, I'm going to be creating a specially dedicated recording for this because it's that much powerful. But what we need to know right now about that phenomenon is that, Aries is the sign of new beginnings, of birth, or of something fresh and new being created. A new moon is always linked to new beginnings, something new. It is basically the conjunction of the sun and moon, the divine masculine and the divine feminine coming together, so that always births something new. Either some energy, but most of the time it works with our very own desires and seeds of intentions. So both of these symbols coming together, both representing new, both representing a beginning, so that just adds to the gravity. But if all of that wasn't enough, we must not forget that this is the very first Aries season after last December's Saturn and Jupiter conjunction, which basically births a new paradigm. So in this 20-year cycle that just opened last December, this is the most powerful and important energy of the new. The very first new moon in this new paradigm, taking place in the sign responsible for new innovation, initiative, new beginnings basically. Now I would suggest that around this time we all focus on what we desire to plant seeds of intentions in the universe, but I do not think we need that much encouragement, because all these planets in Aries are kind of passively, automatically guiding us to do exactly that. May they be just through instinct or inspiring us through someone, something, but we are kind of already doing that on autopilot, so to speak. I do believe that we never felt this desperate to just get out of the quagmire, get out of from being stuck, and just take action and be able to live what we truly need to be living. And even though this is a very frustrating energy, this is where it makes so much sense, because even frustration is fuel, or better said, like a psychological force to push us in a certain direction. And even if we cannot go physically, well, we desire it that much more. So it is basically just a fuel for our dreams and desires and goals, etc. Sometimes, the universe doesn't care if the fuel is inspiration and optimism or if it's frustration. Yes, the frequency is the same, but if we look at this in an alchemic way, it still adds the required amount of firepower into our inner motors, into our alchemical reactor, our hearts. So basically it is up to us what we choose. If we choose for that to be big dreams and hopes with no attachments and expectations, or if it's frustration and just this anger to be on our path already and do what it is that we need to do. So let's get back to this new moon. Well, it's very powerful because it sextiles Mars and Jupiter. Mars immediately activates it. It adds a lot of power onto it. And even information, even your own mental patterns, whatever you're thinking of, whatever you're creating in your mind with your thoughts, Mars and Gemini, it adds that to this full moon. And if that's not planting seeds of intention, then I don't know what is. And Jupiter, well, Jupiter is even more powerful because Jupiter is the subjective truth. It is our faith. It is what we believe in. It is our worldview. And we had so much time from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2022 to finally get aligned to who it is that we are inside of us because of all those Pluto aspects. Then there was Jupiter squaring Neptune for almost a year, that all of that turmoil, hardships, depression, feeling lost kind of motivated us to seek our truth. And we've done the work already, so it's done. And this is where it pays off. Because all of what we believe, our greatest dreams and hopes, and all of what Jupiter represents is gonna be pumped into this new moon, along with the Martian empowerment. So this is very, very strong. This has gravity. This can truly change a lot of things. And chances are, it is gonna be manifestation-wise quicker than the usual new moon because it is linked to Mars directly. And yet another element to this, both the Sun and Moon and Venus are going to be very, very close to Aries, goddess of discord. Now, every single person alive today has Aries in the sign of Aries in their charts because she travels so very, very slowly. It takes her about 500 years plus to complete a rotation. And Aries is the sister of Mars, the female awakener, the revolutionary, the fighter. And what is very specific to Aries is that she knows her truth, she knows what she desires, and part of what she always desires is freedom and equality. And even if she's disadvantaged, even if the odds are against her, even if the whole cosmos is not on her side, she will still fight and she will still find a way. Aries is basically the apple of discord. If things don't happen peacefully, she'll find a different way. So basically, because this new moon is conjunct Aries, because Venus, the heart, everything that we love, is conjunct with Aries, because Ceres, Demetra, the nurturing principle, is conjunct Aries, well, this is a very strong power. At this time, we may not even have full control of ourselves, what we feel, everything that happens from within us. This is like a massive awakening. This is like a massive revolution. This is where it is our will or the highway, even if we are the most peaceful and harmonious people, even if we are beings who embody serenity and peace, this will still determine us to undergo a personal revolution when either spiritually, let's say, we just tell the universe, look, this is what is meant for me. I am not gonna surrender my freedom for absolutely anything. I don't care how you direct events and my destiny and fate itself, as long as freedom and me being able to have that freedom is part of it. And from a very down-to-earth perspective, well, it means that we're simply gonna fight for whatever is so important to us. Everyone their own way, everyone what fighting and battle and overcoming challenges means to them personally. So basically this new moon is gonna be packed with this desire of revolution. And at the same time, Mars is becoming very, very active, very chaotic, extremely assertive, because slowly and surely it's getting out of bounds. And when Mars is out of bounds, it doesn't care. It just wants what it wants, and how it achieves it, it doesn't really care at all. So of course, this will mean a lot of protests, people rising up, people demonstrating, people fighting for their rights and equalities on the world stage. But for us personally, individually, we will do just that for all the things that are important for us, and freedom is definitely going to be one of them. And all of these planets conjunct Aries are going to be squaring Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn is power. And because it's a square, we're going to oppose and challenge the power which limits us. And it doesn't matter what those limitations are. May they be inner limitations, our own weaknesses, or, external reality, government, rules, regulations, etc. But this time we're truly gonna challenge everything that limits us. And ultimately what this Aries wants is to embody the strength of Pluto, to take back all her power and to use it the way she thinks. And just replace Aries with your name, because in the sign of Aries, it's all about you, your story, your destiny, and what awakening means for you personally. And even spiritually speaking, this is gonna be one of those moments when the awakening is gonna hit like a shock. This is an extremely intense energy, amplified by Mars and Jupiter. So this is a very explosive cocktail. No doubt that on the world stage, there are definitely going to be negative expressions of this energy. Violence, increase in crime rates, terrorism. Naturally, it means political battles as well, mediatic warfare, maybe even war or any kind of conflict at sea or over a territory at sea or with ships. Because Neptune in the sign of Pisces squaring Mars can represent naval conflict. But at the same time, it can also represent spiritual warfare, where this awakening might have a kind of side effect where different paths, different perspectives, different, let's say, gurus battle the opinion of another, the view of another, the spiritual philosophy of another. So any way we look at this is really going to be a very, very important and a very powerful week. But we must not forget that all of this happens in the Uranus and Saturn square context. So don't expect things to go like clockwork. Don't expect the plan and whatever you think that you're gonna accomplish what you desire is set in stone, because it's not. You might have to readapt several times because this is a very surprising kind of energy and chaotic ultimately. But as I said, I'm going to be back with another video especially dedicated for this new moon taking place in the sign of Aries. So this concludes this week's horoscope. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the likes, shares and comments. And if you'd like to support my work, you can find my PayPal link in the description below. Thank you again. Wish everyone a blessed and powerful week. Believe in yourself. Believe in your goals and dreams, because we are almost out of the birth canal. And very soon after that new moon, very confident that many of us can begin anew one way or another. Thank you again. Until next time. Bye for now.